Hi everyone, welcome to this video designed to help you run an ultimate. Face-to-face events, they are very different to virtual. If it is your first one or you've only done one or two beforehand, even each face-to-face event can be different depending on whether they're joining from a conference screen and they're all looking at one big screen in a meeting room, or perhaps they're all joining on devices. And with that in mind, they probably won't all join each to join and watch on a device. It may well be if there's 30 players, only 15 devices will join and they'll all gather around. So they're not really going to be able to hear you quite as well or be concentrating as well as they would do on a virtual event. So with that in mind, you want to kind of repeat the key information and try not to add too much extra info or funniness as it might not go down well as it would do on a virtual event. Anyway, with that in mind, I'm going to get into the briefing. I'm going to talk through this. I always have a holding slide up as people start to arrive, whether that is on a big screen or whether that is people arriving on devices, because there can be a slight delay as opposed to welcoming everybody in and getting into the flow with your virtual briefing. With this event, you may have to let everybody in first as they arrive. And then once you know that everybody is present, then you can get into the briefing. I'm going to run this one as if it were on a big conference screen because the Urban Explorer example video I did as if people were watching on their devices. So I'll do this one differently just in case there are any differences in how you handle it. But this is the holding slide that I would have on as they arrive through. Personally, I also have some music which I play in the background, just some generic sort of lift music really, just so that there's some sort of content. Also, if people are watching on a conference screen, they may want to check that they actually can hear the audio, whether that is with an audio team at a big conference or perhaps just the main contact of the company, just trying to ensure that their speakers are playing audio. Once you know that everybody's ready, or you hope that everybody's ready, then you can get into the briefing. Well, hello everybody and welcome to your event today. My name's Dave. I'm going to talk through how this is all going to work in just a few moments. Before we do that, just make sure that you all have the app called Mobile Adventures. Now, I can't actually see any of you at the moment, so I'm going to rely on you cheering for me. Before we get into the briefing, do you have the app downloaded? Good. Do you know what team you're in and what team number you're supposed to be? Good, this is going well so far. And do you all know the end location and time to return? Most of you. Okay, well, we'll confirm that a little bit later on. But I'm going to get into the briefing now. I'm then going to talk through how this is all going to work. And then I'm going to send you off to start to play the game. I'm going to welcome everybody to the Ultimate. The aim is simple. Score as many points as possible. The team who scored the most, you will be crowned the winners. Now, once this briefing has finished, I want you to go and join up with your team. And I want you to very quickly work out who's going to be the team captain. Now, the captain doesn't have too much responsibility compared to everybody else. You'll all see the game, you'll all play, but when it comes to answering the questions or taking the photo and video challenges, it's the captain who will do it on their device. You can, of course, switch captains during the game, and you can do that via the settings function. But please remember, work out at the beginning who will be your team captain. Now, at the end of the briefing, the last slide I'm going to put on is the game code. It's 12 digits long, and you're going to type it into the app where it says enter code here, and then hit that green button that says download game. They'll then ask you to select your team, and this is why it's really important that you all have your own team number, and it's different to other teams, because this is where you select the team that you're going to be in. So select the team from the list that appears, and then it'll say, are you the captain or player? So if you've just been nominated captain, hit yes, I'll be captain. For everybody else in the team, you're going to hit I'll be a player. The next screen to automatically open is what we call the selfie screen. You're going to see your own face in that circle, and I'd like you to take a selfie by pressing the circle. Underneath where he's put John, you're going to put your own name there, not your team number or your team name, your name. This is how so we can identify your device if we have any issues later in the game. Now, once you've done those two things, you're then going to hit join game at the bottom of the screen. Now, I want you to do all of those before you leave the space that we're in now. And the reason I say that is because if you have any issues, you can come on down to the computer and you can talk to me one-on-one and we can work out what's going on. If there's any problems, usually it comes at the beginning of the game. So you'll do all of that in this room in a few moments when I put the game code on screen. Then you check in with the rest of your team and make sure that they've all done it as well. And once everybody in your team has done it and they're ready to go, then you can head out into the real world. And you're going to start by hitting the button where it says tap here to start. Now that will take you through to a few screens, which I'm not going to show you now because it's just some information that you need to read and agree to. But once you've done that, you'll then come through to a map of the local area. You'll see all these things on there, these hotspots. Now, these are all different tasks and challenges that you can take on, but they are all locked until you and your team walk to one of the locations. You'll see yourself on there and you'll see your teammates, and you'll actually see everybody else as well, which you can turn off by clicking that button at the bottom left of the screen. But as you and your team walk to one of these locations, it will pop up and tell you that you've unlocked some tasks. Simply click where it says show tasks. That will take you to your first set of tasks to start scoring those points. Now, some of them will be questions like the one on the left here. You'll have the question at the top. It'll tell you how many attempts you have to get it right. There might be a picture or a video there for more information. And then the only difference is the captain is the only one who has the answer box to input the team's answers. So as a team, you can talk through the question, work out the answer, and then the captain, you chuck the answer into your device. Now, some of these will be photo and video challenges like the one on the right here. And it'll ask you to take a photo or record a video. Now, this again will appear on the captain's device, and you'll see a button that says take photo or record video at the bottom of the screen. Don't go to the camera function on your phone to do this because that will save into your photo album. You'll talk about how you're going to do the photo or video challenge, and then you'll press that button and it will start to take the photo or record the video. You can then review these before you submit them to me, where I will score them lots of points. Now, I'm going to score them on a couple of different things. One is about how you've executed the challenge in hand and how many of you appear in the photo and video. The more of you that are in it, the more points you're going to get. But also, have fun with these. Now, there is a menu button you can click, and that will take you to this menu here, where you'll be able to toggle between the main map. That's where you'll see all the hotspots. You'll also be able to click on tasks, and that's where all your questions will appear. There is the messaging function, and that's where you can send me a message if you need any help at all. You'll be able to see the scoreboard, although I will turn it off with 15 minutes to go. And then the settings function is there, where you'll only really use that if you want to switch captains. Now, there are some top tips here from me. My top tips are complete the tasks as you unlock them. There is no correct order to go to, so go to any of the hotspots you want in any order you like, but make sure you complete them as you unlock them. Photo and video challenges score lots of points, so please put some effort into those. They are real game changers. Make sure your team sticks together and plays through the content at the same time, otherwise it can get confusing. And please allow the app permission to access your mic and your camera. That's so you can use all the technology in the game. Health and safety, it's a low risk event, but please be aware of your surroundings and make sure that you look after each other out there as well and that you do it safely. Of course, we all know to follow COVID-19 related guidelines at all time as well. For any minor injuries, you can report to us either using the message function or returning to this call. And anything serious, hopefully you all know to dial 999. Now, this game will end at 3:50 today. You need to then rejoin Zoom for this call for the results. Now, if you are not rejoining, the game does know and it will start to take away points. That's not me. Don't hate me. That's the game. It does it automatically. So make sure you are on time for the results. If you do need any help, you can message in the app, or again, you can return to this call where I will be the entire time. Should you have any questions, now's a good time to ask them or save them for once I put the game code on screen. Talking of the game code, there it is. It's on screen now. I'm going to leave that on screen until everybody has joined. All you need to do is type that into your phone, select your team number and captain, and please make sure that you know what your team number is, and then go and have that conversation with the team to see who will be your captain. Take your selfie, enter your name, and then hit join game. Do all of that in this room before you go. Any questions, pop down and see me. And then you can use the map, head outside into the real world, choose your first hotspot and get to as many of those as you possibly can. Make sure you leave plenty of time to work your way back here for the results. So maybe start with the furthest hotspots and work your way back to the nearest for the results, which will be happening at 3:50. Good luck, everybody. So that is the end of the briefing. However, I would actually leave that screen on a lot longer and just repeat those pieces of information. In a conference room type event or a meeting room, they'll all be chatting and not really paying attention, but you can just leave that on screen. You're probably going to have one or two people come down and try and speak to you to rectify something that's going on. The difference between virtual events and these face-to-face ones, very similar to the Urban Explorer key points, where I probably went into more information about some tips. I'll try and keep it more concise on this one. You're not in control as much as you are on a virtual event. On a virtual event, you see everybody who's joined, you'll see them in the breakout rooms perhaps, so you know how many people are supposed to be in each team. That isn't always the case with this. You may have 30 people across 6 teams, but only maybe 2 or 3 people actually join a team, not because everybody doesn't want to join on their devices, or they may have problems and just put their phones away and carry on with everybody else's phone. So you're not necessarily in control as much, but that's okay. Rest assured that they do have the ability to drop you a message or rejoin this call if they do have any issues. Throughout the game, send regular reminders, perhaps more so than you would do in a virtual, especially as you get towards the end of the game. With half an hour to go, make sure you message them to let them know there's less than half an hour to go, and to start thinking about their route back to the finish line. With 15 minutes to go, with 5 minutes to go, etc., try and keep on top of them and ensure they are back on time. In my experience, those events where people are rejoining the conference room or they're heading to a shared location like a bar, I tend to think they need a lot more pushing to get back on time. And in my experience, again, if the event was due to end at, say, 4 o'clock, I would probably say the game ended at 4:45, and I'd start the results at 4:10, just to give 5 minutes leeway in between the game ending and the results happening. People tend to have to try and get back to a venue, get checked in, use a lift, or maybe find their table. And so if you have that 5 minutes of buffer time, for me personally, that works well. I also then will put a screen on like this, saying time for the results, or the results will be beginning soon. And that way it gives you that screen on screen. People know they are in the right place for the results and they haven't missed anything, but also you're not having to speak or be on screen for 5 minutes waiting for them to get back. With the photos and the videos, the selection of them, if they are going back to a bar or a busy area where it's very noisy, chances are they're not going to hear very well. So maybe don't put as many videos into your end presentation, which we know videos are great, but perhaps rely on the photos a little bit more if you think that the audio might struggle. You also might want to select a few less than you would do normally. But again, each venue, each event is different. So just judge what you're doing and how many you should put in there. With virtual events, when they've all joined individually, they can't really be distracted too much. But with these events, when they're all in one space, there's a good chance that perhaps they're not quite listening as well as they should be. And therefore, try not to add too many funnies or too much information. Just stick to the basic information as you can and try and repeat key pieces as much as you can. Also, bear in mind that for some of the events where they're all in the same conference space, for a lot of the reasons, and you can actually work out why as well, but the laptop that they're using is facing away from everybody because that's how you would normally set up a presentation to run a meeting. So you might not be able to see everybody. Sometimes I have asked if they could turn the laptop around so that I can see everybody. Just gives you a bit more reassurance, but also means that they know you can see them. So perhaps they're going to listen a bit better as well. But if you can't see them, you may need to rely on them cheering or shouting if they do know their team number or they do know their location. Or you might just have to trust yourself, ask the question, and just hopefully know that they're going to sort it out at the end. There's only so much you can do if you can't actually see or hear them. Now, with events where they're all meeting in one place, especially if it is in a bar or a restaurant, which can happen, there's a very good chance they will be late for the results. And that's why I had that 5-minute buffer and try and keep on top of them. Now, sometimes it just gets to the point where they are running really late or they've all gone to the bar and there's only so long that you can stick around. It is within your powers and your right to perhaps wait a little bit longer than you should do, but at some point you may need to call it and just suggest to the client, if they are there, that you hand over the presentation link and the scoreboard link for them to do at a later point, which will be suiting them. You need to tread carefully about how you set that up, but if you make it sound as if you're doing them a favor, then that's absolutely fine as well. Of course, it is difficult to get that across without making it sound like you are bailing from the event, but they are only booking for that 2-hour window, so it is within your powers to do that, should they be running extremely late. The final bit of advice I would give, and this applies to all games actually, is that when you use the messaging function, which we rely heavily on when they're doing face-to-face events, that message won't appear until the team has stopped whatever question or task they are in. And therefore, if they do take 5 minutes to do a task, if you've got 10 minutes left and they're in the middle of a task and it takes 5 minutes for them to finish that, that message won't appear until they're finished, in which case there'll be 5 minutes left. So try not to mention definite numbers in your messaging too much. You can say that there is less than half an hour to go because that's not too vital to do. But when you have sort of 10 minutes left, you can just say there's not long left at all now, or there's only minutes left, or there's seconds left, etc. Try not to put an actual number on it, because that can sometimes create confusion. Well, look, I hope this video has helped you gain some insight into these. They are very different. Each event is different from one to the other, so just take it as it goes. You may need to think on the spot for some things, but just trust yourself, have a thick skin with what you're doing, and good luck.